Welcome back, viewers. We'll continue our theological audit of the study article 41, the Watchtower Study Edition for October 2019. The title, Stay Faithful Through the Great Tribulation. For those that have been with me, I've mentioned many times that the believers probably, I believe, will not go through the tribulation. They'll be taken out at the beginning of the tribulation, no different to Noah getting taken out of the flood and Lot being taken out at Sodom and Gomorrah. Many of you might not believe that. Some believe that they'll get taken out in the middle of the tribulation. Others believe they'll be getting taken out at the last part of the tribulation. I also want to mention very clearly and very distinctly that this photo, that the Watchtower likes these types of photos, propaganda photos that are used by religions and none more than the Watchtower. This photo is a photo portraying the Lord Jesus Christ coming back to save Israel at the end of Armageddon, because the Allied nations are not going to be able to help Israel at this point, and the goat nations, as you see depicted here, because this arrow is pointing at this man, so it must be one of the soldiers from a nation that's trying to destroy Israel, will be shut down by the Lord himself. Otherwise Israel will be annihilated. It must be a tremendous assault on the nation of Israel and the people of Israel for the Lord to have to return himself with his horde of saints. That could be you there, we don't know. To save his people. What I want to say too, and let's get this clear, we're in a Jewish religion, people. The religion of Christianity, its origins are in Jewish. So why can't people accept the place and the position that Israel has in God's plan? Just let me roll back a bit. Shut that. Why can't we accept God's plan in this? I don't know. Maybe there's some racialism that we need to get rid of, but we cannot underestimate the end time events that are going to take place when God judges the Jewish people and the nation of Israel and puts them through this terrible tribulation period in their land. Now, there'll be two lots of nations at this point, one fighting to save Israel, one lot of nations fighting to save Israel, as it were. I use the Holocaust as an example, where the Germans were trying to wipe out the Jews and the Allies come to save them. And there'll be another group of nations that want to annihilate Israel. But the Allies won't be able to save Israel this time, and as I've mentioned before, the Lord will come and save Israel himself. An amazing picture, isn't it? So, when we left off last time, we had the privilege of using one of Lloyd Evans' videos, otherwise known as John Cedar's channel. Tremendous presentation on the Watchtower's association with the United Nations. And when one of the interesting statements here is, viewers, they say, when those political powers turn on false religion. Now, the interesting aspect of this is, I believe religion will be tied up in these political powers. But they're saying when the political powers turn on false religion, now this would be inclusive of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, because they are a false religion. They're using religion the wrong way. So again, they're talking about themselves. They're talking about religions, including Christendom. Look, including Christendom. So they're excluding themselves from Christendom, and they're saying that these powerful political powers, when they turn on false religion, will mark the beginning of the tribulation. It will truly be a catastrophic event. I can't understand. What I can't understand is how they can say all this and think they're not a part of it. Why they think they're so exclusive? Anyway, it says, what might the nations say to justify their attack on false religion? What might the nations say to justify their attack on false religion? And B, what will the former members of those religions likely do? Gee, they're silly questions, aren't they? What might the nations say to justify their attack on false religion? Well, I don't think the nations are really going to have to say anything. And they'll say what they want to say. And then what will the former members of those religions likely do? Well, I think that's in an indirect way suggesting they might become Jehovah's Witnesses, if you understand what I mean. Oh, well, they might have to become Jehovah Witnesses to get themselves out of all this trouble. Oh, gosh, I don't know. So let's carry on from here and we'll see what we're going to unravel from this.
We do not know what reasons the nations might give to justify their attack on Babylon the Great. They might say that the world's religions are an obstacle to peace and that they constantly meddle in politics. Or they might say that those religious organizations have accumulated too much wealth and property.
Now, this is amazing, because here again, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of the Jehovah Witnesses, JW.org, or whatever they call themselves, they're talking about themselves. They might say that the world's religions are an obstacle to peace. What world religions are we talking about here? You can't be talking about common Christianity. It's never been an obstacle to peace. In fact, it's all about peace. And they constantly meddle in politics. Oh, no. No. Really? Well, since we're talking about politics and religion, I'm going to bring in now some videos about the person who runs Hillsong, Brian Houston, and he's a very powerful religious man, very wealthy one too. Let's play a clip on what happens
The Prime Minister has shrugged off suggestions he put forward Hillsong church leader Brian Houston to join him at events in Washington, D.C., only for US officials to reject the request. Asked several questions about the report in the Wall Street Journal, Scott Morrison repeatedly dismissed it as gossip, but didn't deny its accuracy.
I don't comment on gossip, honestly. It's all gossip. Yeah.
Did you actually put a request in for him to
I don't comment on gossip of stories about other stories.
Does that mean it's not true, though?
It means it's gossip.
But not true?
It means it's gossip.
But not true?
I think I've answered the question.
Prime Minister's office previously said that invitations to the state dinner were decided by the White House. In a statement to the media, Mr Houston dismissed the reports as totally false.
So here we have some confusion about whether this religious leader is going to go to the White House or not. How does this unfold? This is quite typical of what the Watchtower is talking about that'll happen in the end times. Let's see what happens here.
Been at the centre of a political drama all week, and tonight Hillsong founder Brian Houston says even he has no idea whether the Prime Minister wanted him to attend a dinner at the White House. The church pastor insists he's never discussed the idea with the PM or anyone from his office.
He's the most talked about preacher in Canberra, but even Brian Houston is in the dark about his own role in an international political storm.
Was I invited? I genuinely don't know.
The question has occupied Parliament all week.
I think the public has a right to know whether our Prime Minister asked for Mr Brian Houston to go to the White House.
The PM won't say whether the Americans vetoed a request to have his friend, the head of the Hillsong Church, at last month's lavish state dinner in Washington.
It is not
my practice to go around commenting on the unsourced reports, Mr Speaker.
Speaking with Ben Fordham on 2GB, Brian Houston acknowledged he is still under investigation by New South Wales Police for not reporting his now deceased father's sexual abuse of children. Whether that caused a disinvitation, he doesn't know. He and the PM haven't spoken in months.
Is there a chance that the Prime Minister's office put forward your name as a possible guest and you just didn't know about it?
Well, everything's possible. I just don't know because I've never had a conversation with the Prime Minister about it.
He might be the only one not talking about it.
While politicians have spent the week focused on trying to get to the bottom of that White House invitation, this is what's grabbed Brian Houston's attention. And it's not hard to see why.
Thousands of people packing the Baulkham Hills Church for its Worship and Creative Conference, where politics isn't the highest power. Jane Azzopardi, 9 News.
So this has been a big deal in Australia, hasn't it? So let's just see in a radio interview what Mr Houston has to say about the idea of him going to the White House under the invitation of the Australian Prime Minister, who is really not open to talk about it. Let's have a look.
Prior to the PM going to the USA, did you have any conversation with anyone that might have included a suggestion or even a joke that you might somehow be included in the trip to America?
I never heard that. I never heard it before and I've never heard it since. So to answer the question, was I invited? I genuinely don't know. At first I thought, well, no, I wasn't because it was news to me. Now I literally don't know because the Prime Minister and I have never had a conversation about that. And the reality is I couldn't have been there anyway because I already had prior commitments in London for our church in London's 20th anniversary.
So I just want to make it clear that he said if he was invited, he wouldn't have been able to be there anyway. So that's a fair comment, isn't it? Even if he was invited, he wouldn't have been able to be there anyway. So let's go on.
Washington Post reported that the Australians put your name forward as a potential guest for the state dinner, but the Americans vetoed the invitation during negotiations. So is there a chance that the Prime Minister's office put forward your name as a possible guest and you just didn't know about it?
Well, everything's possible. I just don't know because I've never had a conversation with the Prime Minister about it.
How did you react when the Washington Post published that claim that you'd been struck off the guest list?
Oh, well, I just didn't believe it because I'd never heard anything about it, so I thought it was nonsense. But then I guess the fact I didn't know anything about it doesn't tell us whether I was or wasn't invited. But it's really a matter for Scott Morrison because I genuinely don't know the answer.
Have you spoken to him about it since all of this broke, since the Washington Post story?
No, I just told you that. I haven't talked to him about it before the state dinner or since the state dinner. I haven't talked to him at all.
Curiosity didn't get the better of you? You didn't send him a text and say, hey, PM, what's this whole thing about me being invited to the White House and the Washington vetoing me on the guest list?
I figure he's got a whole lot more important things on his mind, like droughts and things that really matter to Australia.
Scott Morrison has described the story as gossip, but he hasn't denied the report, has he?
As far as I know, no, but I can't answer for what Scott Morrison does.
You must have been shocked when this story appeared.
Yeah, I was confused, to be honest. I actually did get a message from a journalist at the Wall Street Journal, maybe 3 weeks before, asking me about it via my office, and I just said, no, it's incorrect. It's not true. Because as far as I was concerned, it wasn't true.
Do you find it strange or fascinating that a newspaper in Washington would make up a story about a church pastor from Sydney? Because you've been quoted as saying this is a baseless rumour and totally false news. So if it's fake news...
Well, I thought it was then.
You're not sure now?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Because it is. I mean, it's a bit bizarre, isn't it, that a newspaper in Washington would write a story about a church pastor from Sydney, Australia, if it was just kind of made up.
Think about that. The Wall Street Journal was caring about a church pastor and a church in Sydney. It's a pretty awesome
We could
story.
sort it out here and you could just text the Prime Minister and just ask him and then we can get to the bottom of the whole thing, but I don't think you're going to do that for me, are
I'm
you?
pretty sure he's in the Parliament right now, judging by your TV screens right outside here.
So what we're trying to determine is, we do not know what reasons the nations might give to justify their attack on Babylon the Great. They might say that the world's religions are an obstacle to peace and that they constantly meddle in politics. That's why I've brought up this business about Brian Houston and from Hillsong, a wonderful pastor, a very wealthy one as well. I don't know how he juggles it all, but he does. Got caught up in an invitation to the White House and didn't know much about it. So he said he wouldn't have been able to make it anyway because he had to go to London. But what actually come out of it? Let's have a look. You won't believe this.
Well, here I am at the White House. Never say never. It's a great honour, and of course, to have had the chance to go into the cabinet room, even into the Oval Office, and to pray for the President of the United States of America. To me, it's not about the politics, it's about the position, and a significant man like the President of the United States could give it all the prayer we could possibly give him.
Let's just play that again.
Well, here I am at the White House. Never say never. It's a great honour, and of course, to have had the chance to go into the cabinet room, even into the Oval Office, and to pray for the President of the United States of America. To me, it's not about the politics, it's about the position, and a significant man like the President of the United States could give it all the prayer we could possibly give him.
So after all that, I bet none of you expected that one. There you go. Wow. Gosh.
Now, of course,
but the Watchtower says religions are an obstacle to peace and that they continually meddle in politics. Well, what religion are they talking about? Honestly, do they think the world's stupid, or that they might say that those religious organisations have accumulated too much wealth and property? Well, oh my goodness, if we go into this, the Watchtower, one of the most wealthiest religious organisations on the planet. And I can't help myself. The best one on this subject, again, is Lloyd Evans. I'm going to just have to go with the best, and we'll put on his take on the wealth of the Watchtower Bible and Church Society. Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like. Maybe even comment. If you watch it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.